Okay, readers, so welcome back. So today we're going to be continuing on the lessons that we've been having over the past 2 weeks on looking at the theme. So the lesson, the message, or moral of the story that the author wants us to learn, but also doing something new today where we're looking at a particular strategy that an author uses, such as in this case, repetition for this read aloud that we're going to do today to drive home the message of the story. Because a lot of the times when we are doing our read alouds, we notice that the authors are doing something again and again or using a particular strategy to demonstrate something, to highlight something. And so in this book, actually, the author, Celia Krempien, is using the strategy of repetition to really drive home the message of the theme of the story. So I also chose this read aloud today, Sunny, because I thought it would be something that might help us with everything that's going on with what's happening in the world right now. So again, I hope you enjoy reading this story with me. We're going to be having a lot of little discussions. So if you have someone in your home that can listen in with you, it would be great. So you can have a turn and talk partner during some parts where I ask you to do some thinking. Okay? So let's start reading. Ready? Sunny by Celia Krempien. Sunny by Celia Krempien. Most people do not like rainy days. I know for a lot of you, you don't like rainy days because it means that you can't go out to recess, or even if you do get a chance to go out, it's going to be a walking recess, and I know a lot of you don't like that. But I also know there are a handful of you who do, because it means jumping in puddles, playing in the rain sometimes when you go home, or getting to watch a movie in the cafeteria. So I know that there's two groups of you out there. Most people would say there is nothing good about trudging to school on a rainy day while the wind crawls up your sleeves and puddles soak your boots, making your footsteps squish and squash. That is what most people would say. But not Sunny. Sunny thought this day was the perfect day to use her big yellow umbrella. And it was. Definitely seems like it's going to come in handy. Until a big gust of wind came along. Now, most people would say that being pulled through the air by an umbrella was a bad sort of situation. But not Sunny, who felt like a bird soaring high above the little town below. Now, readers, I'm already noticing something that keeps repeating throughout the story so far. Do you remember on the previous page where the author said something like, but not Sunny? And then right after the author said that, we learned a little bit as to how Sunny saw things. Everyone else at the beginning of the story was really sort of disgruntled by the fact that it was a rainy day. But not Sunny, because she thought it was the perfect time to use her big yellow umbrella. And right here, when the wind is carrying her away, look what the author said. But not Sunny. And again, we're learning how Sunny sees things, how she views things, her perspective on the situation. Although we might think it's a bad situation, look at how she thinks of it. But not Sunny, who felt like a bird soaring high above the little town below. So I'm wondering if this part that the author keeps repeating is going to give us a clue as to what the message in the story is. You know what? This is the perfect place for us to stop and do some thinking and maybe come up with some ideas as to what that message might be, as to what the theme of the story might be. Do you think you can quickly turn and talk and tell the person next to you as to what you're thinking, what you're predicting the message of the story might be? Take a few seconds. Okay, let's get back to our reading. But soon, the town below was replaced by a stormy sea. Now, most people would agree that being blown out to sea was an awful, terrible sort of situation. But look again, reader, see? The author again is repeating this part. But not Sunny, who liked watching the white-capped waves rolling and tumbling over one another. Then the sea started to get a little too close. Down, down, down she fell. Now, being trapped in a small boat and adrift on a stormy sea is what most people would call a horrible, dreadful, and ghastly sort of situation. But not Sunny. What do you think the author is going to say, readers? Think. Make a quick prediction. What do you think Sunny is going to think? Because what we're seeing and what we're hopefully noticing in this story is that even though things look terrible, even though things might seem bad, Sunny seems to be the type of person who tries to see the good of what's happening, tries to see the sunny side of things, kind of like what her name implies. So even though she's in a terrible situation from our perspective, what do you think she might be thinking? What might be going through her head? Just by looking at the picture, I'm thinking she might be considering how at least she's not in the water. Because look, even the rope broke. She might also be thinking like, oh, well, thank goodness that I landed softly. Because you saw how her umbrella kind of let her drop, but it wasn't a sudden fall. She could have really gotten hurt if that had happened. Well, let's go back, get a running start, and keep on reading. Let's see what Sunny thinks about what's happening. Now, being trapped in a small boat and adrift on a stormy sea is what most people would call a horrible, dreadful, and ghastly sort of situation. But not Sunny, who thought she preferred boating just now to swimming. How about you, readers? If you were given the choice between being on the boat or being in the water, what would you choose? Did most of you say being in the boat? I would probably agree because it looks like a storm is really brewing right now. That's when the big wave came. Uh-oh. Readers, do you see what's there? It's a big rock. I'm hoping that wave isn't going to make her crash into it. That would be dreadful. That would be ghastly. That would be terrible. Kind of like what the author said. Now, most people would say that things were looking exceedingly bleak. That means very, very bad. So I could go back and use those words and it would mean the same thing. Now, most people would say that things were looking very, very bad. You see? So exceedingly bleak, very bad. Let's go back. Now, most people would say that things were looking exceedingly bleak. That being stuck on a rock in a boat, surrounded by a stormy sea, was probably as bad as things could get. I mean, what else could really happen? What other thing could go wrong right now? But not Sunny, who thought things weren't that bad because at least she wasn't alone. And she does have a friend there with her. Oh no, her friend is flying away. She's by herself now. The one thing that seemed to be keeping her spirits up is gone. Now, I don't know how you would feel, readers, but if I were Sunny, this would be the part where I would break down. Because it is really hard to sometimes see the good in what's happening. You sometimes want to hold on to one little thing, and if that little thing goes wrong, you sort of break down. It happens to a lot of us. But I do remember that in this book, the author keeps using that strategy, but not Sunny. Remember, Sunny stays positive even when things are bad. So I'm wondering if maybe on the next page, that pattern is going to keep repeating, or if we're going to have a break in that pattern. Let's find out. But then she was. Now, most people would probably cry at this point. Now, I'm thinking two things can happen. Either the next page could say, but not Sunny, and then we learn as to why Sunny maybe might not cry, or maybe she does end up crying and we find out a little bit more as to why she's breaking down just now. Which one do you think it might be? Can you turn and talk and tell someone next to you as to what do you think might happen on the next page? What the author might say on the next page? Okay, well, let's check your thinking. And this time, that's exactly what Sunny did. Oh no, readers, look at her. She is distraught. She's so sad. She's upset. And really, who can blame her? After the day she's had, who can blame her? But look. But then, I'm wondering, but then, what could that mean? What could happen next? Oh, look. Remember that friend that left her? He's back. But he's not alone. He brought all his friends with him. And look, they're helping her. They're lifting her up. Up, up, up she rose. She was lifted off the rock, over the less stormy sea, over the little town, and set down just where she needed to be. Now, most people would say that being late for school was a bad kind of situation, but not Sunny. There we go again, readers. Remember what I said? The author seems to keep using this part to offer us as to what her perspective is on situation, as to what Sunny's thinking. Because even though we might see something bad, we are continuously thinking as to how Sunny sees things and what her perspective is. She thought that this one time her teacher would understand. The end. So before we jump in and talk a little bit about the theme in this story, could you quickly think to yourself as to what you thought about the story today? Maybe what was your favorite part? Maybe talk to the person next to you as to what you think the message of the story might be, what it was that the author wanted to drive home. Okay. So, in this book, readers, we kept sort of going back to this idea that things are really bad from one perspective, from our perspective, because remember, the author kept saying now, most people. Do you remember hearing that throughout the story? And then right after the author said that, it always went back to how Sunny saw things. And most of the time, it was a positive perspective. We got to have a little bit of a different perspective as to how to see things. Even though things seemed really bad, Sunny was the type of character in the story who tried to see the good in something. And I think that's what the message of the story was. That sometimes things are going to look terrible, like things are not going to get better, like things might just seem to be getting worse, but it doesn't mean that there's not a positive side to things. And so I thought this was a really good book for us to read today, especially with everything that's going on. Again, a lot of us don't know when we are going to get back to our normal lives, or if we're ever going to kind of be at a place that we were before. Now, I'm hoping we are, because I miss all of you so much. But having that perspective, having that outlook can be really sad. It makes it really hard to see the good in things, to have a positive attitude, because it doesn't help you remember the good that is happening. Like in this situation that a lot of us are in, we might be stuck in that mindset where things are terrible. We can't go outside. We can't see our friends. But if we keep thinking about that, then we might forget to think about the good things that are coming out of all of this. For me, for example, and you might have a different situation from me, and I understand that. But for me, for example, I know one of the positive things is that I'm getting to spend a lot more time with my family than I used to. I'm getting to do a lot more gardening than I used to. I'm getting to work on little projects that I wanted to for a while now. Like I wanted to get into sewing, which I did. I wanted to try and recycle a little bit more because a lot of you made me really passionate about that this year with your projects. And so I have time to do that. And I'm taking advantage of that right now. And I think that if I were most people, as the author kind of makes me think that, as if I were other people, because most people I'm hoping don't have this sort of perspective. If I was someone who only thought about the bad and not the good, then I wouldn't get to enjoy what is happening. And I think that's also part of the message or the lesson that the author wanted to drive home, that it is important to see the sunny side of things, the positive side of things, because if you get stuck in only seeing the bad, then you forget about the good. Now, that's just my idea as to what the message or the lesson of the story was today. You might have a different idea, but again, I thought this was also another great book for us to use to look at the different type of strategies that authors use to drive home a message of the story. And in this case, the author used repetition. Remember, throughout the story, the author kept saying, but not sunny. So I hope you enjoyed reading the story with me and that you kind of enjoyed our conversation at the end. Don't forget to let me know as to what books, or let not just me, but Mrs. Correa and Mrs. Correa knows to what books you want us to read. We definitely want you to enjoy the books that we read, whether on our videos or in Zoom calls. So I can't wait to read with you again later.